Americans have classically, John, as you know, had a kind of a reluctance. Maybe reluctance is even too weak a word. A kind of almost abhorrence to be snitches, to rat, to inform. The popular media, the popular culture has made that role, denigrated it. And you know, so many movies and others that have portrayed criminals in sympathetic light have helped fuel that. How do you overcome that reluctance, and particularly when Americans, generally speaking, don't want to get involved in other people's business?
Great question, because I think there was some reluctance in the beginning from a lot of people in the media, mainstream media, who said, if you think back to 1987 when Fox approached me, Fox was not even a network yet. And when they came to Florida and the original executive producer cornered me somewhere, I was lobbying for child protection legislation, still doing it, testified before Congress probably over 100 times in the last 28 years. He cornered me and said, how would you like to be the host of the first reality television program? A multimillionaire named Rupert Murdoch is trying to start a new network called Fox. And we'd like you to be the host of the show. And I'll never forget it, in the parking lot of the Fort Lauderdale airport, I said, who the hell is Rupert Murdoch? What is reality?
No one asked that question.
No. Think back, and what is reality television, and what the heck is Fox? And it was a one-night network. It wasn't even a network. It was whatever they called it back in the day, 87 affiliates. And I said no for about 6 months until Barry Diller and a man named Tom Hurwitz and Michael Linder, the original producer, kept saying, look, we've cast actors, we've talked to people, you're the guy we want, and we'll run a hotline. You know, they had done this movie, Adam About Us, on NBC, the most watched TV movie of all time, and I had seen what that had done. It had reunited missing children. Grant Tinker green-lighted that project in 1983, landmark television. And I kept saying no, and they said, the first guy we want to profile is David James Roberts, an FBI top 10 serial rapist convicted of 17 rapes, escaped from 5 life sentences from an Indiana jail. While he was out on parole, how the hell they had let anybody out after 17 rapes? He murdered 4 people, 2 of them small children. That changed my whole mind about doing the show. I went, I don't know anything about television. I'm very uncomfortable with that. And I went home to my wife, Reve, and at the time we had moved a couple times in 1 year. I had testified against NAMBLA, and you and I have talked about this for years, the North American Man-Boy Love Association, an underground group of pedophiles who believe sex before 8 or it's too late. They have a manual of how to penetrate and molest children and try to get away with it. They had been threatening me anonymously. We had a brand new baby, Megan, and I think we had moved 3 times that year and into a safe house, and at one point, and because they were trying to catch whoever was threatening us. And I said to Reve, I really would like to try to do this thing called a TV pilot. I don't really know what a pilot is. I don't know anything about TV. Fox is struggling along. They've lost a lot of money, and but I'd like to try it because of this guy, David James Roberts. You know, Reve, the murder of Adam has never been caught. This guy has murdered children. I want to do it. She never hesitated. I mean, she went, that's what we do. I said, it may make our life more difficult. It's certainly maybe repercussions to it. So I went back to Fox and I said, I'll do the pilot. And then the reality sunk in. Who's going to watch this show? Just the question you asked me 10 minutes ago was, will law enforcement support it? The relationship with the media is not a good one. Cops don't really trust the media because it's always about the bad cop. It's always the Rodney King issue. It's not the paralyzed cop, not the 100 and so cops that have been killed in the line of duty. It's always about the brutal cop. Will cops work with this show? Will anybody ever call? Because people do not want to get involved. Americans aren't famous for, my God, I'm going to be brought into that courtroom, somebody's going to kill me, there'll be retaliation, I'll be in a trial forever, no one's going to protect me. Wouldn't you know it, William Sessions, the first director of the FBI, said, I will do a press conference before the show airs. I know you, John. I've seen you testify for us and against us. After Adam's murder, the FBI refused to get involved in Adam's murder, and the FBI opposed the missing children's bill. And that was on record. I was a big critic of the FBI, And when President Reagan signed that bill, the FBI had come out and opposed the Missing Children's Bill, simply forcing the FBI to get involved in cases of missing children. Director Sessions said, that's all bygones, that's all water over the dam. We're going to support you, and I'm going to have a press conference with you, and I'm going to support this television program. The FBI does not have any good history with the media. We don't partner up with the media, but I will have that press conference, and I will never forget it. We announced David James Roberts as the first fugitive. I shot the pilot painfully in Washington, D.C. Nobody told me that the camera with the light on was the one you're supposed to talk to. In those days, you had to memorize tons of stuff. You could not go back and edit. I mean, this is prehistoric television. It took all day to shoot that half-an-hour pilot. The show aired on 7 O&Os. Rupert is the billionaire media mogul of the world, but in those days, he only owned 7 television stations. There were 80 affiliates, most of them UHF. They weren't even VHF. They were operating out of rental storage units with a wire hanger and some of the affiliates. And we caught David James Roberts. We got all these tips. We aired Sunday night, was the only night. Johnny Depp had a show called 21 Jump Street. I don't know what happened to that guy, but but he was a struggling musician on Sunset Boulevard, and that was his first real job. And they caught David James Roberts, and they caught him on Staten Island. We got so many tips, and guess what this sociopath, rapist, murderer of children was doing? He was running a shelter for the homeless on Staten Island, and his picture had been in the Daily News about 2 weeks before we aired this show. He had gotten an award from Mayor Koch, the then mayor. Did not know he was presenting an award to an FBI serial killer, the top guy on the FBI 10 Most Wanted. The show became a hit. I never thought people would call. People went. We gave them the ability to call and remain anonymous. I knew that was always important. We never offered rewards. There was no money involved. There was just me out there saying, if you have the guts to take this guy off the streets, we don't tap or trace phone calls. No one's ever going to call you. Make the call. Do the right thing. Tell us where these lowlifes are. We'll turn it over to police, but you'll never be dragged into it. I've never broken that bond for 22 years. We've had law enforcement agencies want to subpoena our phone records or tap or where, never. And now those days are gone. They know that this is the bond of trust. And people called by the thousands, and still do, and go and leave tips on the website. I always believed that people, when they saw a terrible travesty, when they saw a horrible, horrible person do something terrible, that chose to be a fugitive, that said, I'm not going to come in and get that trial. I'm not going to take my chances, that they were out there, they would do the right thing. And the American public had demonstrated that to me with the passage of the Missing Children's Bill, the creation of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in 1984. They overcame all the odds and helped me get things done with Congress, with no lobby, no political action committees. And I was right. The American people saddled up, and now it's the world. You know, we're seen all over the world. I always believe people would do the right things, not as vigilantes, not take the law in their own hands. We've never had an instance where somebody went next door and shot a guy because he was a rapist or a serial killer or a child molester, and they're still doing the right thing. I have great faith in the average citizen.